And I'll say I've identified a few things I would say are concerning trends developing within the RV industry.
The RV market just snapped, and the fallout is spreading faster than anyone expected. 18 models have dropped so far below normal pricing that even seasoned buyers are questioning if the numbers are real. These aren't leftovers or damaged returns. These are current, sought-after rigs being marked down so aggressively someone hit the panic switch. And here's the kicker. Each time one price falls, another dealer jumps lower within hours. Something big is happening, and most shoppers haven't noticed yet. But once you see the pattern forming across these models, you'll understand why it could save or cost you thousands. Forest River Rockwood Mini Lite 2509S. Some units slip quietly into discount territory, but the Forest River Rockwood Mini Lite 2509S did not fade in the background. Its sudden price correction hit with the force of a market truth people have tried to ignore. What once hovered near $38,900 has now appeared closer to $31,400. And that drop did not arrive because someone felt generous. It arrived because dealers pushed too many shipments ahead of schedule, and the redesign leak for the incoming season changed demand overnight. When a refreshed composite floor system enters the rumor mill, shoppers stop moving, and dealers holding inventory start counting interest charges. One screenshot from a national listing site even showed two identical units, same options, same color, yet separated by more than $6,000 in posted price. That is what quiet undercutting looks like. It is subtle, but it is real. For anyone evaluating timing, this model teaches a blunt lesson. Hesitation in the showroom happens for a reason, and each dealer's lot pushes the next markdown closer. Jayco Redhawk 31F. Pressure rarely shows itself all at once, but the Jayco Redhawk 31F revealed it in a way no dealer could hide. Listings that once stood proudly near $129,995 began appearing closer to $104,800. And that shift did not come from friendly negotiation. It came from redesign notes leaking ahead of schedule. When word spread that updated interiors and revised trim packages were already positioned for the next run, hesitation set in. Dealers still holding prior units faced floor plan interest climbing into double-digit territory, and every passing week pulled another layer of margin away. One auction even moved a low-mileage example for roughly 22% below wholesale guidance. And that kind of movement is not speculation. It is documented depreciation, photographed and verified. The Jayco Redhawk 31F now stands as a reminder that timing controls far more than preference. When inventory ages, discounts sharpen, and the silence on a dealer lot says more than any advertisement. The moment those banners start leaning in the wind, the next transition point is already forming just beyond the row of parked coaches. If insights like this help you stay ahead of the market, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you never miss these breakdowns. And if you've seen similar pricing shifts in your area, share what you're noticing. Your perspective helps everyone watching. Keystone Passport 268BH. What happened to the Keystone Passport 268BH did not unfold quietly. Prices that once sat near $41,995 began slipping toward $33,500, and in some regions, incentives pushed those tags below $31,000. That shift did not come from seasonal softness. It came from a backlog created during the surge when manufacturers built every bunkhouse they could. When family demand normalized, dealers were left staring at rows of identical units aging past the point where floor plan interest remains manageable. One internal inventory sheet from a Midwest reseller showed 14 matching models marked as high-risk stock, each one sitting longer than ideal. That is not speculation. It is operational pressure printed in plain text. The Keystone Passport 268BH demonstrates how quickly confidence fades when too many options look the same. Buyers hesitate, and dealers respond with markdowns that speak louder than any advertisement. As those reductions ripple outward, the next transition reveals how even sellers struggle. Thor Gemini 23TW. Signals of strain surfaced early, and the Thor Gemini 23TW made those signals impossible to ignore. Listings that once hovered around $137,500 shifted toward $109,900, and that kind of movement does not happen without deeper pressure underneath it. Demand began leaning toward full van platforms, leaving this design caught in a space that no longer matched buyer preference. Dealers kept receiving transit chassis shipments, even as real-world interest thinned, and each additional unit increased the weight of floor plan costs. One regional document even referenced a market adjustment credit exceeding $12,500. Written plainly rather than disguised as a seasonal promotion. That is the kind of receipt that tells its own story. The Thor Gemini 23TW now stands as a clear example of how timing shapes every outcome in this market. When inventory builds faster than confidence, prices fall, margins tighten, and silence fills the lot long before the public notices. The next transition arrives when hesitation becomes visible on every posted tag. Grand Design Reflection 300 3RLS. Shifts in demand do not always show themselves right away, yet the Grand Design Reflection 303 RLS made its change visible the moment pricing drifted downward. Figures that once rested near 69,000 began appearing closer to 56,200, and that adjustment carried weight far beyond a seasonal promotion. Word spread that the next production cycle would include revised insulation and updated solar integration, and once that information reached shoppers, interest in current inventory slowed. Dealers holding older units felt floor plan expenses grow each month, turning every additional week into a financial strain rather than a waiting game. One internal forecast even labeled this model as vulnerable, noting extended days on lot and slower turnover compared with earlier years, a detail rarely shared outside dealership walls. The Grand Design Reflection 303 RLS now illustrates how timing reshapes value long before paperwork is signed. When updates approach, discounts deepen, momentum shifts, and posted numbers begin moving in a single, unmistakable direction. Forest River, Cherokee Wolfpack, 315 PAC K12. Shifts in the toy hauler segment rarely unfold quietly, and the Forest River Cherokee Wolfpack 315 PACK12 revealed its turning point with unmistakable force. Pricing that once hovered near 68,000 began appearing closer to 54,000, and that adjustment reflected pressure rather than enthusiasm. Dealers carried more large units than demand could support, and every additional week on the lot increased floor plan charges that carved into already narrow margins. One verified regional listing even marked units as aging inventory, a designation used when holding costs exceed thresholds. That note exposed the financial tension shaping each revised price. Shoppers then learned about upcoming changes to cargo tie-downs, insulation, and energy features. And hesitation grew fast. When next cycle upgrades approach, buyers wait, and waiting intensifies the burden on aging stock. The Forest River Cherokee Wolfpack 315 PACK12 now shows how quickly numbers shift when operating costs overtake turnover in this shifting market. Thor 4 Winds 28Z. Pressure builds in quiet corners long before an official price drop appears, and the Thor 4 Winds 28Z revealed its turning point the moment listings began slipping below their long-standing range. What once held near 118,000 started showing up around 89,000 and 995. And that shift signaled more than a routine discount cycle. Dealers carried heavy Class C inventory into a season marked by higher fuel costs and softer foot traffic, and every additional week on the lot tightened the grip of floor plan expenses. One regional document even included an aging penalty adjustment, written plainly rather than hidden behind promotional language, confirming just how long some units had been sitting. Shoppers noticed the silence around these rigs, and hesitation formed quickly as newer interiors and lighter chassis upgrades appeared on the horizon. The Thor 4 Winds 28Z now demonstrates how market timing and operational pressure shape each posted number. When demand softens, margins shrink, and tags begin reflecting the quiet urgency behind dealership doors. The transition becomes unmistakable as waiting turns into necessity, and necessity turns into visible markdowns. Winnebago Travato 59G. Momentum in the van segment shifted long before the public began to notice, and the Winnebago Travato 59G became one of the clearest signs of that movement. Figures that once hovered around 154,900 started appearing near 129,000. And that adjustment carried far more weight than an ordinary seasonal slide. Rising interest rates pushed monthly payments into ranges many shoppers stepped back from, and every stalled application left another unit aging on a dealer's lot. One auction listing even confirmed a closing number near 121,000. A result documented with photographs and bidding logs rather than rumor. Dealers holding multiple vans watched their carrying costs increase, and foot traffic no longer matched the volume they received a year earlier. The Winnebago Travato 59G now illustrates how quickly confidence shifts when financial pressure builds under the surface. Once upgrades for upcoming model runs began circulating, hesitation grew even stronger. Each posted price reflects a quiet calculation happening behind dealership doors, and when silence stretches too long across a row of vans, the next markdown usually follows without warning. Integra Vision 29F. Market pressure has a way of revealing itself through small shifts before the full picture becomes undeniable, and the Integra Vision 29F demonstrated that pattern with striking clarity. Numbers that once settled near 169,000 began showing up closer to 131,000, and that movement carried a message rooted in economics rather than enthusiasm. Gas-powered Class A coaches faced a difficult season as rising costs per mile pushed many shoppers toward diesel alternatives, leaving this segment with slower traffic and longer holding times. Dealers carrying older inventory watched their floor plan charges accumulate day after day, and each additional cycle forced them closer to uncomfortable decisions. One detailed entry in a national listing database reported aging penalties exceeding $1,450 per month, clearly documented in the unit's financial notes. Buyers eventually noticed the quieter tone surrounding these rigs, and hesitation became more common as new updates approached. The Integra Vision 29F now stands as an example of how real-world expenses shape every posted figure. When carrying costs rise faster than demand, price tags begin shifting, and those shifts reveal more about the market than any advertisement can express. Coachman Apex Ultra Light 265 R BSS. Patterns in the travel trailer segment shifted long before most shoppers realized it, and the Coachman Apex Ultralight 265R BSS became one of the clearest indicators of that change. Prices that once rested near $44,500 gradually pulled down toward $34,900, and in several regions, the numbers fell even lower once incentives were added. That movement did not come from renewed competition. It came from a surplus created during the period when manufacturers built as many lightweight units as possible. When demand eased, dealers found themselves holding more inventory than foot traffic could support. One internal file from a Midwest location even labeled this model under a critical reorder hold, with extended days on lot written directly in the operational notes. Those entries were not speculation. They were documented carrying realities that shaped each posted tag. The Coachman Apex Ultralight 265 RBSS now represents how quickly value shifts when supply rises faster than interest. Each updated posting reflects a quiet recalculation, and every recalculation nudges the next markdown closer, guiding the transition into the following chapter. If you want the rest of this list and every future update the moment it goes live, make sure you subscribe. These price movements change fast, and staying informed is the only way to avoid overpaying or getting blindsided as the market keeps shifting. Keystone, Montana High Country 295 RL. Shifts in the fifth wheel market often begin with subtle movements, yet the Keystone Montana High Country 295 RL made its change visible without hesitation. Pricing that once held around $83,000 gradually settled into the range of $63,000 to $66,000, and that decline reflected more than a quiet seasonal dip. Early information about the upcoming production cycle revealed changes to composite sidewalls and solar preparation, and once those details reached shoppers, attention shifted away from current inventory. Dealers holding older units saw their floor plan expenses accumulate, with each additional month tightening operational pressure. One presentation slide shared during a dealer meeting confirmed the updated construction approach, and that single piece of documentation sped up the slowdown already forming on sales floors. The Keystone Montana High Country 295 RL now stands as an example of how quickly value reshapes itself when redesigns come into view. Each posted number reflects a calculation calculation made behind the counter, and those calculations follow a predictable path. When updates approach, demand waits and prices fall, clearing the way for the next chapter in the unfolding market story. Jayco J Feather 24BH. Market changes often begin with whispers on dealer lots, and the Jayco J Feather 24BH became one of the first models where those whispers turned into visible numbers. Prices that once rested near $37,995 began dropping toward $28,700, and in several regions, the decline strengthened as new incentives surfaced. This shift did not come from a sudden dip in interest. It followed the release of updated interior designs planned for the next production cycle. Once those details circulated, shoppers recognized the gap between what they could buy now and what would soon replace it. Dealers holding older units watched the days on lot increase, and each additional cycle added weight through floor plan charges. One Northwest listing even showed 6 identical units priced below $30,000, each tagged with extended inventory notes. Those entries serve as documented proof, not rumor. The Jayco J Feather 24BH now reflects how sensitive this segment becomes when redesigns approach. Every posted number mirrors the tension between existing stock and incoming improvements, guiding momentum downward as the next chapter of the market forms just beyond the horizon. Fleetwood Flare 34J. Some price drops unfold quietly, yet the Fleetwood Flare 34J revealed its downturn with a clarity no dealership sign could soften. Listings that once stood near $170,000, $1,000, and $900 began appearing closer to $138,000, and that shift reflected more than a polite seasonal reduction. Rising borrowing costs pushed family shoppers out of the gas-powered Class A segment, and dealers holding aging inventory faced monthly floor plan expenses that grew heavier with each turn of the calendar. One internal memo from a regional network even noted an approaching overage fee, written as a direct warning rather than a suggestion, confirming how urgent the situation had become. Foot traffic slowed, hesitation grew, and the silence across certain lots stretched long enough to change strategy. The Fleetwood Flare 34J now illustrates how economics, not excitement, becomes the final voice in these decisions. When margins thin and carrying charges stack faster than interest returns, the posted numbers begin to shift in a single direction. Those shifts create a signal that leads directly into the next chapter, where market pressure continues shaping every figure the public sees. Newmar Bay Star Sport 3004. Market pressure rarely announces itself all at once, and the Newmar Bay Star Sport 3004 demonstrated that truth with unmistakable precision. Prices that once held near $152,000 began appearing closer to $117,000, and that adjustment reflected a deeper shift in buyer behavior rather than a temporary promotion. Interest moved toward diesel-powered alternatives as operating costs for gas Class A coaches continued to rise, leaving this model positioned in a segment facing slower traffic and longer decision cycles. Dealers holding multiple units watched their floor plan expenses accumulate, and each additional month turned inventory into a growing liability rather than a stable asset. 2 separate listings even displayed authorization for below minimum advertised pricing, a rare signal that margins had already been trimmed past comfort. The Newmar Bay Star Sport 3004 now stands as a reminder that numbers on a windshield often tell a story crafted in back offices where carrying charges and aging reports guide every decision. When those reports sharpen, reductions follow, and those reductions lead directly toward the next chapter in the shifting landscape of the current market. Forest River Flagstaff Classic 826 MBR. Some price shifts echo softly, but the Forest River Flagstaff Classic 826 MBR delivered its message with unmistakable force. Figures that once circled $64,995 began settling closer to $47,200, and that movement reflected structural pressure rather than seasonal fluctuation. Early documentation revealed that upcoming generator and emissions adjustments would redefine next year compliance. And once that information reached the market, interest in existing units weakened immediately. Dealers holding older stock faced rising storage and finance charges, with each additional month deepening the cost of waiting. One internal bulletin even stated that pre-certification models must clear by August, a directive written without ambiguity. That instruction confirmed the urgency behind every posted discount. The Forest River Flagstaff Classic 8 26 MBR now illustrates how quickly momentum shifts when regulatory updates collide with aging inventory. Shoppers paused, dealers calculated, prices moved. Each tag on the lot reflected a decision shaped by deadlines rather than preference, and those decisions carried a ripple that leads naturally into the next chapter of the unfolding market correction. Forest River Cherokee Grey Wolf 26 DBH. You could see the turning point, the moment towable prices began sliding, and nothing illustrated it more clearly than the Forest River Cherokee Grey Wolf 26 DBH. Figures that once held near 33,000 began settling around 26,300, reflecting financial strain rather than promotional enthusiasm. Dealers carried more midweight trailers than demand could absorb, and each additional week added floor plan charges that steadily eroded margins. One verified regional listing even flagged several units for extended age review, a designation used only when inventory sits far beyond its planned cycle. That document confirmed the quiet pressure reshaping every updated price tag. Shoppers noticed the repeated markdowns, and hesitation grew as details about upcoming interior changes circulated. When next cycle updates approach, buyers wait, and waiting magnifies the cost of holding aging stock. The Cherokee Grey Wolf now shows how quickly numbers shift when carrying expenses outpace turnover. Forest River Sandpiper 3660 MB. Pressure in the large format fifth wheel segment has been rising for months, and the Forest River Sandpiper 3660 MB revealed that strain with unusual clarity. Prices that once hovered near $89,000 slid toward $58,000, showing urgency rather than generosity. Fuel costs climbed, tow vehicle requirements narrowed the shopper pool, and families shifted toward lighter rigs with lower operating demands. Dealers holding multiple units saw monthly floor plan charges push past $1,200, steadily eroding margins before any negotiation began. One regional pricing sheet even included a red flag note reading "exceeds target aging threshold," confirming how long some units had remained unsold. Upcoming updates to interior materials and energy systems added another layer of hesitation, encouraging buyers to wait for the next production cycle. The Forest River Sandpiper 3660B MB now demonstrates precisely how rising expenses and delayed demand ultimately push prices downward until movement finally returns again. Winnebago View 24D. Some shifts begin quietly, but the Winnebago View 24D made its turning point clear the moment market data revealed repeated markdowns across multiple regions. Figures that once sat near 173,000 began appearing around 148,000, signaling more than a seasonal dip. Higher borrowing costs pushed monthly payments upward, and the core audience for compact diesel motorhomes felt that impact immediately. Dealers holding multiple units watched floor plan charges rise past $1,400 each month, cutting margins before any negotiation began. One verified wholesale report even recorded a closing number slightly above $142,000, backed by time-stamped bidding notes. That entry confirmed the shift happening below retail visibility. At the same time, next cycle upgrades, ranging from updated interiors to improved energy systems, encourage shoppers to wait. The Winnebago View 24D now illustrates how rising costs and delayed demand reshape every posted number. If you've seen price drops like these in your area, drop a comment. Your experience helps everyone watching. And if you want more breakdowns before the next shift hits, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Big changes are coming, and you don't want to miss them.